that we have choices. Hi, everybody. Helen here, and we're talking about positive conversations at Positive Space, and we're talking about breast cancer. My guest today is Deborah Adler. She is a board-certified, registered, and licensed art therapist, and more importantly, she is a 25-year breast cancer survivor. In 2006, she was diagnosed with stage 3 invasive breast cancer and underwent a 19-hour double mastectomy and flap reconstruction, and 25 years. And please welcome my guest, Deborah Adler. Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
I'm glad you got rid of your headache.
Yes, that was not fun.
Now let's talk about this. You're a breast cancer survivor, 25 years.
It's
Congratulations.
actually, just to clarify, it's not 25 years, 15 years. It's in 2006.
Well, I can't add, but okay, 15
I
years.
could
We'll
say
go with that as well.
25.
You're still a survivor. We'll go with that.
Yeah, 15.
I have a question for you. When you were diagnosed, how were you told? And how did you, do you realize, do you know by any chance what the difference is when you had a double mastectomy then?
Mhm.
Is there a difference now as to the type of cancer you had and to what the treatments would be? By any chance, do you know that?
Um, I do believe that the treatments would be pretty much the same,
Mm-hmm.
based on the aggressiveness of it, because it was invasive and it was stage 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure the protocol is more or less the same. Um
Okay.
and involving the lymph nodes as you see on the screen. So as far as how I was told, um, it was very interesting because it was really the last thing I thought would really happen to me. I did feel this lump, but in my mind, is sort of a history before that was just a lot of stuff going on with I had a newborn, and there was a lot of things happening with the newborn. And I felt like um, I was nursing him, and I felt like I needed to stop because again there was obstacles I don't need to get into, and so I stopped fairly quickly, and then I felt this lump, and I was like, oh, this is probably a clogged milk duct. But I knew I needed to get it checked out because my first mammogram, my first and only mammogram I ever had, was before I had this baby, and they said your breasts are dense, you should come back in 6 months. They didn't say anything was bad, and then I was pregnant. So I knew I always had to go back. I went in just like, oh, let's check this out. And the radiologist, you could see, was had a little bit of a panic in her face. And apparently, she's not really technically allowed to tell you that you have this diagnosis, but she knew the protocol as far as coming back for the biopsy, making the appointments with the breast surgeon. So, without her really saying anything, she said it. So I kind
Oh
of guessed
boy.
it for her because she couldn't technically say it. So I really knew then and there, and it was like, what? Um,
Now, your mammo and sono, since you said you had it before you had the baby,
yeah, that
was
was
9 months
my very,
before.
yeah, like my baseline. Like my first
Okay.
mammogram I had was at 35.
So how did you just found a lump? Were you doing a self breast exam? How did
Oh,
you
okay.
find it?
So to clarify, I wasn't doing a self. I was just, again, I had stopped fairly abruptly with the nursing,
Mm-hmm.
and in the shower, I just felt the lump. And but in my head, alarms weren't really going off. It was like, oh, this is probably a milk duct, that because I know I've nursed as my third child that you can get like lumpy breasts. So that's how I felt it, but I was obviously being responsible, getting it checked out.
Were there any other symptoms beforehand or just the lump?
That was really it.
Just the lump.
I oh
Okay.
or you know what? Actually, I actually had, because I was actually playing tennis at the time, and I remember having a rash on my chest.
A rash.
It was a rash. Um,
Okay.
I don't know if it was connected to that. I happen to be very heat sensitive,
Hmm.
and I was playing tennis, and perhaps I had a heat rash, but I know that I had the rash the same time. So I
Okay.
know that that could be connected.
Was there a history of breast cancer in your family at
No,
all?
not
None.
nothing.
Okay. Did you have, at the time, since it was 2006, 15 years ago, not 25, did you get did you get the ANCA test, or is that just recent, or did you get the BRCA test or anything
I
like
did
that?
at the time, it was just the BRCA, and I
Mhm.
did do that test, and everything came back negative.
Oh, okay. Give me 3 feelings that you felt when you found out the news. Tell me what they were.
I mean, shock,
Mhm.
um, distraught, and, like, kind of frozen, like, numb, like, didn't know what
Yeah.
to do.
Well, this is really interesting because the last sentence on your bio says she's worked hard to fight strong and maintain unyielding positivity in her recovery and overall wellness. That was one of my favorite sentences in the entire thing. So, how did you maintain positivity when you had your breasts removed and you had the reconstruction? Tell me about the reconstruction. How did that go? Tell me about that first.
Yeah, so it was a big decision on what to do,
Sure.
with the options, and
What were your other options?
so they first tell you because they first really saw it in one breast. It was in a couple of areas. So they said, well, you can remove one breast and then get an implant. You could do both breasts and get implants, or you can get rid of them both and then use the fat because I had just had a baby. I had some, and you can use the fat on your stomach, and it's called a deep flap, and then they use that fat,
Mhm.
and which is a much more involved surgery, much more, there's just a lot more involved. But
Well,
you're
nine
kind of like
19
done.
hours.
Unreal because it's
Oh.
microsurgery. They sort of tap this particular surgery was very trained, and you tap into the bloodline, so you don't
Mhm.
cut deeper in the stomach. It's like a very involved thing, and, I just remember, my husband being like, "Oh, you gotta just do it. Just get it done. Just do it. You gotta do it." And I don't work that quick. I mean, I had to for me, it was like, What's going on here?" And it just processing it really took some time to just really understand what was going on. Like, I was thinking about how when you get pregnant and you have a baby, and that's a big change in your body, but you have, like, this 9 months to sort of mentally prepare that
Prepare.
and
Mhm.
get used to the change. And
Mhm.
even though this is completely not having a baby, it's kind of the opposite. You're actually losing something, not gaining something, but it's kind of like this major operation you have to decide. And it was like, and it happened to be after 2 weeks of the diagnosis. So
Mhm.
I'm like, you're doing this major ordeal within 2 weeks of time.
I was just gonna ask you that. So from your diagnosis, 2 weeks later, you're having this major surgery going?
Yeah,
How
it's mind blowing to
that is
even like
mind-blowing.
to
Yes.
comprehend. Um,
Okay.
and I mean, to backtrack, I had just had my 3rd baby 5 months before that, and it was my only C-section, and it was a hard recovery for different reasons, and I was
Why? Why was it a hard recovery?
um, well, I okay, so I went in there with, like, a little cold, and I remember, like, having to cough, like, I had a little cough, and I remember, like,
Oh.
every time I coughed, it hurt so bad, so I
Mhm.
held it in, and then which was not good, and that turned into bronchitis. So I had, like, the C-section that I was like, "What how am I getting a C-section?" And then I was not feeling well, and then it turned into bronchitis, and then I had a son that was born with, like, all these things going on. He
Mhm.
was born, I mean, he was born with a hole in his heart. He was born deaf. It was like I was trying to, like, come up with air dealing with him
Right.
as this newborn and 2 toddlers, 2 little kids. So
Wow.
it yeah. I mean, it's an extraordinary time, like, when you really think about it, that I was trying to process that and recover and feel strong, and then all of a sudden, "Okay, you have to have this other surgery."
So,
Um,
when you told your husband, now you just said that your husband said, "Let's get on with it. Let's go. Let's do."
yeah.
How did he handle this? And what was your prognosis once you first of all, stage 3 is quite serious to put it lightly. So, what did they say your prognosis was?
Well, it's funny that you use that terminology because I was very bothered by that terminology. And when people would
Mhm.
ask me that, I was very offended and I couldn't tolerate that kind of conversation
I agree.
because I just was like, this is not me. Everything about this whole thing was like not who I am. Nothing about it matched my energy, my spirit. It was, I actually hear people, I don't know if you've ever been through this where people say, "Oh, I always knew I'd get cancer," or "I always knew this would
Yes.
happen."
Yes,
I
I know some people
I
like that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm completely could not connect to that. This is
Mhm.
like, this will never happen to me. I'm healthy, I am vibrant, I am positive. I mean, really, like the
Yeah.
most positive person that I know, that people tell me. So how could this
Mhm.
happen to me? So, I'm trying to remember what your question was with my husband.
Well, how did he deal with it? Because I've had people say that was always afraid of getting breast cancer. I'm the same way as you. I never thought I'd get it in a million years,
Yeah,
and I had an issue with when people would say, "I hope it works out." Hope never worked for me
yeah, same.
because
No, hope's
don't give
not in
me
the
hope.
question.
Yeah, hope
So
implies doubt. It never worked for me. It's
right,
like I've got this. I'm doing it. Let's get
you're
on
right.
with it.
And
So how did he do? How
so,
did he
I mean,
do
I
when you
called
told him?
him up that
Yeah.
day, and
Mhm.
I told him what was going on, and he left work immediately. He came right home, and
Mm.
he's like he's, very action oriented. He just goes right into, like, "Let's get this done." Like, "Let's do what we gotta do, let's be aggressive," and I'm much more like, "Wait, what's going on here? What's happening?" It took me a little time, but,
You're a researcher. You
yeah,
research. Yeah. Mhm.
I'm a
Good for
researcher,
you.
and I just was like, "Wait, I'm just dealing with my son." So, once I realized, like, what is the option to have the healthiest, longest life possible? And then this was
I
it,
love
and
it.
I was like,
Mhm.
"This is what I'm doing," because I, like, need to be here, and I need to live my
Yes.
life, and I know that I was put on this earth, and I really mean this wholeheartedly, to do good things in this world.
I love it.
I
I love
really,
it.
really mean it.
Welcome to my club. I
But
absolutely love it.
yeah.
Now, who else was your support group? Because did you tell a lot of people? I didn't tell a lot of
Yeah.
people initially. I kept it close to the vest, and then as I went forward in my treatment, I started telling more people and more people and more people. But
So yeah, so it's interesting. In the very, very beginning, it was very close to home and just in my little tiny circle of my husband, my parents, and that was real, and my in-laws. And we just kind of were like trying to sort it out before we could, because I was sorting it out. I couldn't let it, out of the bag until because I couldn't fully process it until I was a little bit further and knew there was a little bit more that I could even get the words out, to be honest with you. Um, and by the way, I didn't even want to know what stage it was. I had needed that protection. It's really
really,
interesting because as much as I'm a doer and want to know things and take charge, I felt again like I couldn't talk about prognosis,
that's interesting.
stage. My husband, thank God for him, he was able to look at all the paperwork and read all the details and the reports. I was like, I need to just do what I got to do, and that's just how I operate. But once I felt a little more secure with the plan, then I told everybody, I've actually spoke about this many times, and I'm a big believer in support system and really sharing it with as many people as you can, because I felt like people are there to support you, and not even just friends. Like, I was so like letting it out. I remember going into like an Office Max. There was an Office Max at the time, and talking to this guy because I needed something, and I was started telling people randomly, and everybody
I did
it
that
just came
too.
out. It just sort of fell right out of me, and I
Yeah.
felt like unbelievable embracing. Like, people really do show up for it, and I
Okay.
needed that. I needed that. Like, I needed the world hug.
I get it. I absolutely get it. So you had people show up. Were there any people that disappeared? Because I had some people that disappeared. How about you?
Mm. So that's an interesting question. If I did, I don't remember. I think I was pretty fortunate. I think because I've made myself a pretty good support system, and I think people showed up. Well, in fact,
Okay.
people I was surprised with that I didn't really talk to, but connections maybe through my kids. I got
Yes.
cards from people. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
You have a caller coming in? Hang on a second, Deborah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Helen. My name is Jackie and I'm from Queens. I love your show, by the way, but I have a question for you. How does someone who has no symptoms of breast cancer, has no pain, doesn't feel anything, what could they do to take measure to prevent anything from getting worse? What should they do?
Well, if you have no symptoms, and I think the best thing to do is you practice self-care. You go for you do your SBEs every month, self breast exams. You go for your checkups, and if you do get diagnosed with something and you never felt it before, the only thing is to do is like Deborah said, we take action. We take action to make sure that it doesn't go any further or get it out of our body, either through chemo, surgery, radiation. And we just do the things to keep ourselves healthy. But thank you for the question. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. I did want to ask Deborah, I want to get back to Deborah for a moment. Okay. Deborah, you went through the chemotherapy, okay? Because I was saying before we got started, I'm loving your hair because my hair was like that, and my hair will be like that again. But how did you deal with losing your hair? Because it's gorgeous. It really is beautiful.
I
How
worked
did you deal with losing your hair with the chemo?
Okay, I worked really hard at my hair. And by the way, before even I had breast cancer, I didn't really have the best hair. Unfortunately, in my house, my whole family has great hair. I never had the best hair. Okay hair. It was tough. I didn't I it was rough. I mean, I did get a wig. And I that was a whole production in itself. It was kind of comical, the place I went to, the ordeal I went through. And I think that really did help. I
Well,
really did not want to be seen without it. And in fact, hardly anyone saw me without that wig because
I
hair
agree.
is so part of I feel like, being blonde and you're blonde, I've always had like a nice hairstyle like my whole life, and to not have that, and I think with the steroids, I was very bloated. So I felt
Hmm.
like I didn't really feel good about myself at all. Um,
What was the ordeal about getting a wig? What was the problem?
I don't know. This place. This woman was just
Oh,
oh, I'm gonna do it. And she was very hyper and excited about doing it, and she ran into these problems, and there was a delay and a delay, and I really don't understand what the delay was, but
okay.
it kept getting pushed off, and then she gave me a temporary wig that wasn't really the wig, and she wound up giving that to me, and then got the new
Oh,
one. It was just a whole
okay.
production.
Oh,
But it's funny when this is an important point, is that at that point you let it go when you're dealing with your life, and you're just like, I just want to be healthy. It just doesn't
yes.
matter. And believe me, I'm into fashion. I'm an artist. I love dressing up and makeup and all that stuff. It just doesn't matter at that point. You're just like,
Hmm.
I want to survive. I want to be healthy. I want to be strong. I want to live for my kids, my family. And
How
so,
long did it take you to grow your hair back?
I mean, the interesting thing is at the very end of my treatment, I started doing these Reiki treatments, which is like an energy work. And I don't know, but I just feel that somehow it helped the flow of it. I mean, it took a while. It took a long time. I never had long, fast growing hair. I mean, I had a short hairdo for at least a year and a half. It took me a long time, and it grew back okay. And
Okay.
then at some point, because what happened, which is important to say, that a year after the surgery and the chemo, I had the nipple reconstruction, and then I had my ovaries removed because it was estrogen and progesterone positive. So
Hmm.
I not only had to deal with all this, I went into early menopause at
I
37.
see. I see.
So dealing with that is a whole other fun set of things that doesn't help hair growth, and my hair was very weak and thin. And so I did manage to get some extensions recently. I was accepting my hair for a while and really trying to put good shampoos in it and take care of it as much as I can.
It's beautiful. It looks beautiful, by the way. It really does.
Thank you.
Now, you also did radiation. How
Yes.
did you do with the radiation?
So in the beginning, I'm like, this is no problem. This is fine. This is so much better than the surgery.
I
So
don't
much
mean to
easier
laugh.
than the chemo. No problem. And then, like, literally the last 8 days,
Yeah.
that was not fun. All of a sudden, it just hit me, and it was like, what is happening? I felt, and I tell people how I describe it. I felt like having like the worst sunburn inside.
Yes.
Like you
Mhm.
feel it burning inside your body, and
Yeah.
it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And it
I
really
had the radiation
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not fun. What was the scariest part of all your treatments? The surgery, the chemo, the radiation. What was the scariest part? The stuff that you just said, you know what? I just don't know about any of this.
I
What
would
was the
say
toughest part?
the the scariest moment is when I woke up from surgery and I'm just laying there on the bed and
Hmm.
just out of it, and kind of like all these things connected to me. They were trying to wake me up. It was interesting because it's kind of funny at the same time because they were like waking me up out of the anesthesia. And I remember saying, wait, I'm not asleep. And meanwhile, 19 hours have gone by, and I'm like, they
Wow.
like I literally thought it just started. But I
Okay.
remember they were doing like a blood transfusion on me, and the blood pressure, and I felt like my arm was gonna explode, and I felt like my body was not my body, and I had drains coming out of me. That was pretty scary. That was
And you
pretty traumatic,
survived. And you survived.
right?
That's the best part.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you something. You are an art therapist.
Yes.
Is that just for children or is it for adults as well?
Both, for both. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So have you dealt with breast cancer patients when
No,
they, I'm sorry?
no, I have
No,
not.
not yet?
But
Okay.
no, I have since.
Oh,
In fact,
okay.
I had a client a few months ago
Hmm.
and was referred to me, and so I felt really privileged to work with her and to
Okay.
give her that support.
Can you tell me what her artwork looked like by any chance,
I can
or would
even
you
show you
prefer
some
not?
of my artwork because I have
Okay.
here
I
this
would love it.
journal that I
Hmm.
kept. That's
Hmm.
powerful stuff that someday I might publish. But I mean,
Do it, girl.
I
Do
have
it.
I have stuff that's a little bit more harsh, but then I have like more in like uplifting stuff. But when I got diagnosed, I looked at it like I wanted to say, if I was my own patient, what would I do? So I kind of like tried to help myself. So I first did this drawing of like what would it look like, and I made like these circles, and I just kind of drew that out,
Oh,
and just
wow.
somehow that spoke to me. And then I mean, I have so much art, but like one of the things I said was that I needed to like take control and be like, and a friend of mine gave me this this stick in her house because she was getting rid of, and I said, oh my god, it's a warrior stick. And she told me, you're going to use it to kick cancer's butt. So I made this warrior picture.
I love it.
And I actually took a real picture of myself, which I don't have here, but kind of in the same pose.
Love it.
And I
We love
wrote
it.
a whole passage about it because I felt like the writing was in a
Hmm.
way more healing than the art because it was like really affirming, like, this is going to be a transformation. I'm going to fight this. I'm putting on my gear.
Deborah, you simply have to share this. You should publish it. This
Um,
is your sign.
I love this picture because
Oh, oh,
it's very graphic and heavy with the blood, like but yet there's hope. And that's what I write about it because I'm holding my little scarf that I might wear and I'm looking up to the sky like, you know what? I'm in pain.
that's amazing.
I'm in agony. This is hurt, but guess what? I'm looking up to the sky. There's hope. There's positivity here,
Absolutely.
you know?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That, that, show
Thank
me one more because
you.
unfortunately we're running out of time. I could talk to you for another hour.
I know there's so
Show me
much to
one
say.
more.
I'm trying to find oh, so this is kind of cool because again, this is towards the end. Sorry. So one thing I really talk about a lot has been with that visualization, and I believe in visualization and visualizing
Absolutely.
your positive self. And
Mhm.
it was very hard in the beginning, but I kept saying, you know what? You gotta think, you gotta envision yourself, healthy self.
You
So
got a
I
picture? Do you have a picture for me?
so I was picturing this new me. This is, of course, with the short hair, with the sun
Oh.
and
Mhm.
arms up, with all this growth, positive growth, and really sort of aiming to that.
That's beautiful. That's just, and that is a perfect way to end this. Deborah, thank you so very much for your time. Thank you for being so generous
You're
with your
welcome.
thoughts. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.